Chapter 25, Revelation. The next morning, Mammy handed me the boxes. She looked confused. She had lost a battle. I hope you got a lot of clothes. Me too, I said, taking the boxes from her. Mammy poured herself a second cup of coffee. I'm going to the church after Abuela, and I pick up some clothes. See, Mammy said, looking into her cup like it held all the secrets of the world. I will see you later over there. Mammy was letting me go by myself. At 10 o'clock on the dot, I met Abuela outside the church, holding two cardboard boxes. It was freezing. And don't think that this doesn't feel like the North Pole, she said, laughing. Ay, que frío. Abuela was smiling, ready to have some fun. Me too, but I couldn't stop thinking about Mammy. I folded my arms tight around me. Hey, ¿qué te pasa? Abuela's cheerful voice drew me out. Nothing is wrong. Here are some boxes from Mammy. She grabbed one saying, Sí, so vámonos. We took off to La Margareta. Abuela had a crazy idea that store owners would give us new clothes because we were helping out the young lords. They didn't, but one guy loaned us an old shopping cart. Senora, here, you don't have to carry the boxes like that in your arms. Use the cart and then bring it back. Not what we expected, but not too bad. We wheeled our cart around in perfect step with each other, going in and out of buildings, knocking on doors, getting our boxes filled with clothes. We communicated silently and knew when we wanted to dash across the street instead of waiting for a light, and when we wanted to take a left instead of a right. Pushing the cart towards the church, Abuela read my mind. That was some poem we heard yesterday, she said. What was it about, Abuela? All of us. This is why the young lords are doing this. She went on. They see their parents working as hard as anybody else, even harder sometimes, and not getting anywhere. I thought about Mammy. Listen to me, said Abuela. It is not fair that powerful people beat up smaller people. It happens everywhere and all the time. Sometimes the rich people make believe they are helping you, but they are not. Ever since I saw the killing at the Ponce massacre, I wanted to fight for people who could not fight for themselves. The people in that poem cannot fight for themselves. Abuela's eyes were filled, not with tears, but with possibility. She looked so beautiful, like she was an opening to something new and good, and I wanted to follow. After being searched, Abuela and I started to take our stuff down to the basement. But there were so many people standing in line to get clothes, we had to snake our way around them. When we finally got downstairs, I could see Migdalia at one of the four-legged long tables that had been set up around the perimeter of the room. There were boxes of clothes on each of them and people trying to sort them by type. There was even a mirror set up so people could look at themselves as they tried on jackets and coats and hats. Hey, said Migdalia as soon as she saw me. It sounded like a cry for help when I got closer. I saw why. Awilda and Dora were at Migdalia's table, handling the hats. I like this one, said Dora, reaching for the green knit cap with a visor and a pom-pom on top. I wouldn't touch that if I were you, snapped Awilda, slapping her hand away. It might be full of cooties. They don't have cooties, I said, like I knew that for a fact. Once I started talking, I kept right on going. My abuela had checked them out. Abuela caught on, sí, yo las mía, todas y sanas. I already looked at them, Abuela was saying. They're all clean, but you can check them out some more. I mean, if anybody knows what a cootie looks like, it would be you, because you probably have seen so many of them. Sepo sosa. Awilda's face got flavorless, like my mother used to say. I almost felt sorry for her, but not quite. She started to say something, but then gave up and turned around to leave. Dora was still eyeing that hat. Dora, yelled Awilda, shaking her out of her hat daydream. At that, Dora dropped the hat and scurried after her. Abuela winked at me. You guys are just in time. I'm exhausted, said Migdalia. You want to take over? The church basement was like being at Klein's on 14th Street on a Saturday afternoon. Controlled shopping hysteria. We looked around at all the mothers trying coats on their kids, teenagers looking for something hip, and old men looking for anything warm. Sure, we'll take over, I said. Just put your boxes aside. We'll sort them later. These people need stuff now. Abuela and I took Medalia's place as an old lady came up to us. She was bent over, really tiny, with just a few teeth in her mouth. Her hair was white and so thin you could see her pink scalp. Mira, mira, por favor. No tienes un suéter. Que bien. Este frío me ten loca. Déjame ver, said Abuela. Then to me, she's looking for a coat or a sweater. See, I understood her, I said. Coats and sweaters, said Migdalia, who understood her too. Over there. I went to where Migdalia was pointing. The old lady shuffled over behind me. I rummaged through a box, and what I found at the bottom stopped me. It was a familiar-looking black sweater. I looked at the size and buried my face so I could smell it. There was no doubt about it. It was my mother's. Abuela, look at this. Abuela came over, looking at me quizzically. This belongs to Mammy. Abuela was just as shocked as I was. Your mother donated clothes? Que megalo. I looked some more and found another sweater that Mammy hardly ever wore, and some long-sleeve dresses and a few blouses. It was a miracle. Mommy never bought new clothes. She wore the ones she had until they practically fell off her back. I couldn't believe she would give away any of them. But this Vieta standing in front of me needing clothes was more than my mother. I gave her Mammy's sweater and a dress, and she was so happy to get them, even though they were a little big for her. She needed to help taking them off of her old rag of a coat in order to put the sweater on under it. Through it all, she kept muttering, gracias, 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 que Dios tu plague. It was good to help her, and when she walked away, I wondered if my mother would look like that in 20 years, even before she got to her house in the Bronx. Later on at the church, Abuela and I were gathering to watch a movie, but I found myself looking over my shoulder for my mother. It was getting dark and she hadn't arrived yet. What's up, Evelyn? What movie are we going to watch? It was Angel. I unfolded the flyer of the young lords had distributed and read it aloud. There will be a showing of The Batter of Algiers, presented by Bud Skulberg and Eliza Kazan. Who's that? Asked Angel. What do you care? It's free. We'll watch. I never heard of Bud Schulberg, Eliza Khan, or The Battle of Algiers either. But why not watch it anyway? Could be good. The church filled up quickly with all kinds of people. Teenagers, out-of-work people, old people with little kids. As I searched for my mother, I was distracted by a guy in a wheelchair. He was about 20 years old, and from the waist up, he was built like he wanted to remove the boy from the block. From the waist down, his legs were withered and skinny. He had a friend with him who was so good to him, guiding him, moving stuff out of the way for him, that for a minute I wondered if they were brothers. They settled in with the rest of us watching the movie. Mammy rushed in right before it started, and I was surprised at my sense of relief to see her. Abuela waved her over to sit with us. She looked different somehow. We watched the movie. I'm not sure people knew what to make of it, but it was really moving. At first, I thought it was about Puerto Rican. Then it changed. Looked like us, but they weren't Puerto Ricans. They were Algerians fighting some French people for keeping them down. But that was the other thing that was confusing. Who were the good guys? The guys in uniform, like the cops, or the Algerians who kept blowing things up? I didn't really get it all, but I did get this. That it wasn't just us Puerto Ricans who live in a culture that didn't like us, and that other people in the world live in the same situation. I liked the movie even though, to tell you the truth, if I knew there was a bomb somewhere or I thought people were going to get hurt, I would warn everybody to run so fast out of the way we wouldn't even believe it, no matter what side I was on. The best or the worst part of the movie was when some rebels were stuck behind a wall and refused to come out, even when the French police warned them that they were going to bomb the building, even though there was a kid about Angel's age with them. Pobre gente, poor people, said Mammy when the bomb exploded. When the lights came up, we all kind of applauded and began to gather our stuff to go home. I noticed lots of people were crying and looking at each other for some kind of explanation. They said stuff like, I can't believe this little kid died stuck behind that wall. The movie even upset Angel. That kid was about as old as me, right? Migdalia came over. Did you see all those women fighting? They were as tough as all the men, right? Yeah, I answered. The women in the movie were fighting right beside the men, even though they were wearing those Arabian type outfits that cover their faces. They were really equal. But why didn't the little kid have time to die? And what about all this? I caught the guy in the wheelchair being helped with his jacket with his friend. Who is he? I asked Migdalia. He got shot in his spine in a gang fight, she said. That's why he's in a chair. He can never walk again. Who shot him? She looked at the paralyzed guy's friend, wheeling him toward the door and the stairs. That guy helping him, said Migdalia. The guy helping him? Yep. My mother sucked her breath and saying, was he in the other gang? Yes, that's what Wilfredo said. Que horribly, said Abuela. That's when I felt an unexpected painful lump in my throat. I started to struggle to get into my coat. Migdalia tapped me on the shoulder. Huh? You're putting the coat on inside out. Oh, I smiled, and I tried to put it on properly. It was embarrassing to be caught in a walking daydream state, but I couldn't help it. The movie and the story of that guy in the wheelchair and his ex-enemy, now friend, put me in a funky frame of mind. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I needed to go home. I went out the door ahead of Abuela and Mommy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The cold wind was whipping, but I leaned right in, hoping it would clear my head. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There were many kinds of fights. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Little fights that happened in one neighborhood, and great big fat ones that seemed to not be so good when we were out in the wider world. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Sometimes enemies had to get it together to fight the bigger bad guy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I got home, went to my room, and got into bed. Mammy came in 10 minutes later. Mia? I'm sleeping, I said. She left me alone. I turned over and faced the wall and was surprised knowing there was a bigger fight out there to deal with. Didn't make me feel so bad. It made me feel free. I pulled the covers over my head and fell into a deep, 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 deep sleep.